Good afternoon to you. I'm WSAV's Tina Tyus-Shaw.
And I'm Ben Singer. Thank you for joining us. We are breaking into programming here momentarily because we want to give you an update from the Chatham County Emergency Management Agency.
We
want to go to that
hazards,
press briefing right now.
Are normally in your backyard or front yard. There's a lot of Halloween decorations that are out right now that could become windborne hazards with 25 to 35 mile-an-hour winds. I mentioned the potential for flooding. There's also a potential for ponding of water along the roadways that could cause some dangerous driving conditions. And then, of course, offshore, the weather is significantly worse than it is inland. So anyone who is a boater, please plan to keep your boat in the port for the next day or so until those activities offshore subside. What we've been doing today, we've been meeting with Command Policy Group, which is composed of the chairman, the county manager, the mayors, the city managers. It's the chief judge, the superintendent of the Board of Education, and the sheriff. We've met with the Command Policy Group twice today to talk about decision making and what the impacts of the storm could be. We've also stepped up our community messaging. We realize that there's a potential for a lot of anxiety in the community about this storm, so we've really ramped up our social media presence and our information distribution through Twitter, Facebook, emails, just to make sure that we're giving the community as much information as possible. So again, to help hopefully alleviate some of that stress that's existing in the community. We've also coordinated with all of our local partners, our regional partners, and state partners just to make sure we're all on the same sheet of music. We've also reached out to our emergency support functions. These are the functions that are critical during an emergency event. We reached out to all of those primary agencies, and we've made sure that they're ready for this storm if it were to have a negative impact to us. We also have reached out to all of our public safety entities to make sure that they are ready to institute life safety measures if we have to do that. We've also reached out to our damage assessment teams to make sure that they are ready to go and assess any damages that may occur throughout Chatham County. We have initiated an EOC activation. An EOC is an Emergency Operations Center. We do have a level 3 activation of our Emergency Operations Center. It's on the first floor of this building. We're staffing it with 12-hour ops right now. It's mostly CEMA staff, but we do have a few partners that have come in to help support that operation. Some things that we encourage all of our residents throughout Chatham County to do is secure any windborne hazards, anything that could potentially become a windborne hazard that's in your property. If you have something that can easily be blown around by the wind, we want to make sure that you take the time to secure those items, put them in a garage, put them in a sturdy shelter. Just make sure that they are protected in some way, because you don't want to lose your property because of wind, and you don't want your property to damage somebody else's property. So make sure that you secure any of those windborne hazards. We also want you to prepare for the potential for power outages. I mentioned earlier, as the wind comes through, it blows some limbs out the trees, and there's a potential for power outages throughout our community. If you have an emergency kit, go ahead and check that kit. Make sure you have all the supplies necessary to survive the storm if it were to have a significant impact to Chatham County. If you don't have a kit, you can visit our website or any preparedness website, and you can find a checklist on what to do to put together a disaster kit. We encourage you to do that. That's something that we encourage all year round. If you don't need it for this storm, you've still got the contents of a kit. You put it in a Tupperware container, put it in your closet, and then you have it for the next event. Also, if we do have significant flooding around the community, we want to encourage you not to drive through flooded roadways. Okay? I do have some things that I would like to pass on from the communities that they've asked me to report on. City Manager Sean Gillen from the City of Tybee. Tybee Island City Hall will be closed on Wednesday. All non-critical workforce will still be required to report to work. Tybee Island Mayor Jason Buelterman, due to the rip current risk, double red flags on Tybee until further notice, which means the beach is closed to swimmers. From the Town Administrator of Thunderbolt, Ms. Carolyn Hankins, the Town of Thunderbolt Wednesday, October 10th, 6:30 p.m. council meeting has been rescheduled. And the Thunderbolt Municipal Court for Thursday, October 11th at 4 p.m. is canceled. Please check the town website for additional details. As far as the county goes, the county will have normal operations on Wednesday. Depending on what the storm presents for us, decisions will be made about Thursday. I have Justin Pratt here, the Emergency Management Coordinator for the Board of Education, and he'll tell you about any decisions from the board.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Justin Pratt. I'm the Emergency Management Coordinator for the Board of Education. Based on the available information that we have at this time, all schools are remaining open as regular on their operational schedules tomorrow, Wednesday. We'll review the weather conditions tomorrow morning and make a determination regarding Thursday. Parents will be updated through our parent notification system, the district website, and social media feeds. We are watching this system closely. We're working with CEMA and the National Weather Service to make recommendations based off of what the storm impacts may be. Thank you.
Okay, we'll open it up now for any questions.
Dennis, there's a question on Facebook. Do you anticipate water over Highway 80 to Tybee, or do you have any information on that?
There's a question on Facebook about water encroachment over Highway 80. We are at a tide sequence to where there are above normal tides, and with this hurricane, it does have a potential to increase those tides. We're looking at 1 to 2 feet above the normal tide sequence, so there is a possibility for water to encroach upon Highway 80 going out to Tybee. I think the measurements are for tonight like 9.6. When the tides get to about 9.4, water gets up to the fog line on the roadway. So at about 9.6, there could be water encroaching into the lanes going out to Highway 80. Yes, sir.
Now, last year we experienced a lot of bridges closing with Tropical Storm Irma. Do you all anticipate that happening this time around?
The reason why the bridges close is whenever the water gets high enough to where it touches the bottom of the bridge, that's when they have to close the bridge in order to get back out and inspect it. We don't anticipate the water getting that high for this particular event.
I believe it was some also that was based upon wind speeds. Am I correct? Or
Well, for travel reasons, sometimes they close bridges. The DOT closes bridges because the high winds are dangerous to the vehicles, especially like the Talmadge Bridge. That's not a water issue, it's a wind issue, and that will be determined by the Department of Transportation based on what we're seeing at the time of the threat.
Dennis, from a CEMA perspective, and then furthermore, for that matter, from a resident perspective, what's the biggest concern with this storm over the next 48 hours?
The biggest concern for Chatham County residents over the next 48 hours is making sure that you're ready to, one, be without power if in the event that we do lose power. There are some people who are dependent on medical equipment, they're dependent on medications, they're dependent on other things for comfort. So we want to make sure that you have all of those items in place. You have extra medications if you need to get those. If you're on oxygen, have some extra oxygen. You normally would have that anyway. Just making sure that you're ready for prolonged power outages. I know that is a subject that our nursing homes, long-term care facilities, hospitals, they really are dependent on electricity. So I would really encourage those who are dependent on electricity to make sure that you're ready to go without power for a day, maybe 2 days.
We've talked a lot about wind, and are you anticipating any sort of shelters for people who may be in mobile homes or less sturdy structures for this storm?
As of right now, we don't have any needs for any shelters. We have been talking about that for the last 2 days. All of our partners are ready to go. They're ready to implement a shelter if we have to do so. Right now, we don't see a need. The Homeless Authority, we've been in contact with them, and they have reached out to the homeless camps, and they are coordinating with Savannah Police Department and also Savannah's Emergency Management, and also the homeless shelters in the community. So there is availability at the homeless shelters, and the Homeless Authority is coordinating all of those activities.
Dennis, could you talk about when the biggest flooding, high tide risk is? Are we talking maybe Thursday morning?
Actually, it's going down after today. The biggest tide threat was this morning at 9.6 feet. I think there's another 9.6 this afternoon. After that, it will continue to just steadily drop. It's still going to be above 9.x. It could be 9.1, 9.2, but I think 9.6 this morning and this afternoon or this evening is probably the highest.
Will the hurricane winds push any more water on top of that?
Yeah, they're expecting the winds to have a storm surge effect of 1 to 2 feet above, but that's counting the 9.x. So right now the tide sequence is only about 8.6 is what's listed in the tide table. So with that extra foot, it goes up to 9.6. It says 1 to 2 feet. We really haven't seen the 2 foot. We've seen it about 9.6, so that's a 1 foot increase.
Could you talk also about what are critical support functions?
Emergency support functions? Yeah.
You said critical was the first time, right?
Emergency support functions are ESFs. Emergency support functions are critical elements that need to be conducted in any type of emergency event. For example, ESF 1 or Emergency Support Function 1 is transportation. That's where you look at your transportation infrastructure and your transportation assets in case you had to initiate any type of evacuation or you needed additional transportation resources to move commodities. Emergency Support Function 2 is communications. Emergency Support Function 3 is public works, 4 is fire service, and it just goes through a sequence of about 21 different emergency support functions for our community.
And that's as opposed to public safety and damage assessment? Those are the other two.
Yeah, public safety is actually ESF 4, which is fire, ESF 13, which is law enforcement, ESF 9, which is search and rescue, and ESF 10, which is hazardous materials. You've also got EMS, which is part of ESF 8. And what was the second part to your question?
I was,
Public safety?
As opposed to public safety and damage assessment. Right?
Yeah, and damage assessment is part of ESF 3, Emergency Support Function 3. So all of those critical functions are part of an emergency support group or emergency support function. And in Chatham County, we got about 21 of those.
And could you just go over what you can expect from 25 to 35 mile per hour wind?
Sure. We've got, let me pull up my notes here. For 25 to 35 mile an hour winds, as I mentioned earlier, we could expect the possibility of downed trees, especially older trees, the possibility of limbs being blown out of the trees. So, you know, not a lot of debris, but some debris. We got the possibility of loose items being blown around, as I mentioned earlier. There's a possibility for older homes who have the older shingles that there could be some shingle damage to some roofs throughout the community. Also, I mentioned power outages associated with that.
Kind of speaking with power outages, have you guys been in contact with some of the utilities? Do they have people here, staged, ready to go?
Absolutely. We've been talking with Georgia Power. We've talked to them several times over the last few days. If we have to activate the Emergency Operations Center tomorrow, they will have a presence in our Emergency Operations Center. So we're in constant contact with all of our partners, utility partners, Verizon, AT&T included, and they're all ready to go if they have to react to Chatham County.
Dennis, can you talk a little bit about the tornado risks associated with this storm?
The question on Facebook, talk about the tornado risk. The tornado risk for this storm has increased slightly since this morning. Anytime you have an approaching hurricane, that right front quadrant of the hurricane is the worst area for a tornado. And that right front quadrant is what's going to be coming very close, if not over, the top of Chatham County. So that is the greatest potential for tornado threat associated with a hurricane. The National Hurricane Center, the National Weather Service, they're anticipating that the tornado threat could be what they call elevated. It's not major, but it's elevated. But if it were to happen here, they're expecting it could be anywhere between an EF0 or a low-end EF1 tornado. That's what they're anticipating for this storm. They don't see this storm creating any significant tornado. The threat is there, but as significant being an EF2 or higher, they don't see that. They don't anticipate that for this event.
Is there timing for the likelihood of a tornado with this storm?
Is there what?
Timing, like would it be Wednesday night, would it be Thursday morning?
Yeah, the timing for the tornado threat begins sometime tomorrow afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, and lasts through Thursday.
I guess the only other thing, wind speeds there, is that high enough for first responders to have to be pulled off the roads, or would they still be able to answer calls as usual with those wind speeds?
For these wind speeds, they'd be able to answer calls as usual. Of course, that is a discretion left up to the police or fire chief or EMS chief of that entity. As of right now, we're not seeing anything that would go above sustained tropical storm force winds. It's all below that. But there are gusts up to 45 miles an hour, and because of that level, the Department of Transportation may do something with, they may or may not do something with Talmadge Bridge. It really just depends on what we actually see as far as the winds go. But as of right now, 25 to 35 mile an hour winds. I don't foresee anything from my office that would cause public safety to come off the street, but it is a personal decision from the chiefs of those departments.
You mentioned the EOC is operating at a level 3. Can you go into detail what that level entails?
Sure. Level 3 activation of the Emergency Operations Center is an enhanced monitoring phase. What it does is it puts all of our focus on monitoring that storm. All other work ceases, and 100% of our focus is on monitoring that storm and the potential impacts to the county. When we go to a level 2 activation, that is a partial activation of the Emergency Operations Center, where we bring in about half of the partners, and those are the critical public safety elements, police, fire, EMS, it's other emergency support functions like public works, to come in and monitor the conditions of the storm and be able to react accordingly. And then phase 1 activation of the Emergency Operations Center is a full activation where we bring every workstation together and we monitor and we work that event. You're welcome. Any other questions?
Dennis, we do have a question about drainage systems in the county and if they've been cleaned out and if they're ready for a storm.
We've been talking about drainage systems with the municipalities and Chatham County Public Works for the last 2 days. They are aware of where their hot spots are. They have been taking proactive approaches to make sure they can mitigate any drainage issues that could occur for this storm. Of course, it's not going to be 100%. As soon as the winds start blowing, it's going to create more debris. But up to this point, they have taken prudent measures to make sure that the water can flow as quickly as it can. And they've also taken a look at the flood control measures and flood control equipment to make sure that all of that is functioning properly.
I guess along those lines, do you guys have to do generators and things to make sure your pumping systems are up and running if you do lose power? We have a list of critical facilities that are located throughout the county, and we also maintain a list of which critical facilities have generator power. For those that don't have generator power but may need generator power, some of those we've done critical surveys through the U.S. Department of Engineers, Corps of Engineers, and so we know what type of generator is needed for that particular critical facility. So if we need generator power, the county has a contract where we can get in additional generators if we need to do that. So I think for those critical facilities, the high priority critical facilities, we're ready to go with either established generator power or planned generator power. What are the high priorities, or is there like an example? Like I assume sewer would probably be one.
It is. This building is one because it's the county seat. City Hall is one because it's the city seat. All of the city municipal centers, fire departments, police departments, EMS, those are all critical facilities, physical facilities. And then the infrastructure to support those facilities. So for this building, the wastewater system and the water system to support this facility, those are listed as critical facilities. So the issue is to make sure public safety has a place to operate during a threat and immediately after a threat. So those are the priority critical facilities. So we've identified which power circuits need to be restored in order to get that facility back operational. So all of that has gone into effect in the planning to make sure we know which critical facilities need which resources and which infrastructure in order to get back online.
Dennis, do you know if any of the municipalities are putting up their hurricane shutters?
That I don't know. We haven't discussed that. This building will not have hurricane shutters on it. We don't plan to install the screens on here, but that hasn't been a conversation.
Typically, is there a wind speed at which everybody does that?
Yeah, it would normally be strong tropical storm force winds, and this morning we were expecting tropical storm force winds to a low grade, but now it's dropped below that. So I don't anticipate that they'd go through the expense and the exercise of putting those screens or wind protection on.
Dennis, any updates from the airport?
Updates from the airport. Airport is business as usual. No flights have been canceled at this time. The airport is, if they do have any type of negative reaction to the storm, if they do have to cancel any flights or if they have to close up airport operations, we're in constant contact with them as well. We've talked to them twice today. They don't anticipate doing any closures or having any flight cancellations. That's all subject to change once the wind starts blowing, so we'll have to see what that produces tomorrow. All right, anything else? Mr. Chairman, would you like to say anything? Okay. All right, thank you, everyone.
That was Dennis Jones with Chatham Emergency Management Agency, just bringing us up to date on the county's preparations for Hurricane Michael and the impacts that we're expected to see. So there are a few things that he wants everyone to be concerned about, and that is 25 to 35 mile per hour sustained winds, some ponding, some flooding, and he said offshore the conditions will be very bad. So if you're a boater, just try to take your boat into harbor and leave it there for a few days. Also, he's concerned about things blowing around in people's yards. He says that's really what you should be doing right now, is securing anything that might blow away, like a lawn chair.
Yeah, another major concern, of course, those power outages, the potential for power outages and the potential for flooding. Dennis Jones also went on to tell us during this briefing that they are still in the decision-making process as to what we will do here in the city and the county, and also with the school leaders. There was an emergency management official from the Board of Education, Justin Pratt saying that right now Chatham County schools are still in session. School will go on as planned tomorrow. However, they are continuing to monitor the situation and they will make a decision if needed. And I also want to mention the fact that you need to know about Tybee City Hall. This is coming in from Dennis Jones per Tybee Island. The City Hall will be closed tomorrow. Mayor Jason Bultman has also passed on this information. There is a double red flag alert on Tybee Island right now, so that means the beaches are closed on Tybee Island until further notice.
They are concerned about Highway 80 as it leads out to Tybee Island as well. This could be one of those times where the tide is high enough that should we get any additional surge from this storm being in the region, that Highway 80 may be impassable at times, 1 to 2 feet over the normal tide sequence, so that's something to be concerned about. I want to circle back to schools for just another second, because we did also hear today from Beaufort County Schools. So they're in a similar pattern to Chatham County right now, where they're going to school tomorrow on Wednesday, and then sometime midday they will make a determination about whether it's safe enough to have classes on Thursday. We've also heard from Georgia Southern. All of their campuses are actually closed tomorrow.